Okay, I'm for real starting this time.
Okay.
No more baby interruptions. No more dad dish talk. We're just gonna talk Tartaria.
Here we go.
Tartaria. Oh yeah,
All right.
the Dale Show.
All right.
Oh fuck.
Before you rip into it,
Yeah,
this is for me and for the people at home.
yeah.
Quick background. Explain Tartaria in a very
Okay,
concise fashion. Go.
so this is episode 3, Tartaria 3. I did one with you and two
Yeah.
without you. The
Yeah.
first one, we kind of talked about what Tartaria, or the conspiracy around Tartaria, how basically there's people who believe there's all these old buildings in the States
Like
that,
the Denver airport.
yeah. Well, no, that's a whole different thing because that they built that.
Okay.
That's a conspiracy in itself that I haven't looked
Yeah.
into. But it's like
Sorry.
the Chicago World Fair and stuff. They had all these super old buildings, and they're like, "Yeah, we just built these in 3 years, and then we tore them down." But people were saying that those were there for like hundreds of years because
Right.
there was a worldwide empire based out of Russia, or what is now Russia and China was like Mongolia. And spoiler alert, this was going to be at the very end of the episode, but I think I
Oh,
mentioned it before that Genghis Khan was the first
yes,
empire of the
you did.
Tartarian Empire. And so yeah, so we're going to talk about a couple things of that again. So for this episode, I listened to a couple podcasts and I was listening to this book, which I don't know if you've ever listened to an audiobook that's just point form. And it's like, I think I mentioned this before, but there's no author. It's just like, here, I'll open up my notes and I'll tell you.
So it's somebody reading off a point form list of
It sounds like
items.
it.
Right.
I think it's like a novel, but the book was written by, where are we? Okay, sorry. Just scrolling through my
No,
notes.
no.
Scrolling through my notes. I'm skipping around because um where the fuck are you? Oh yeah, I listened to the book The Mud Flood Hypothesis
Yes, I
by
remember you
the
talking about that.
Charles River editors. So I didn't finish the whole thing because it's too much, but I feel like I got the meat of it with important stuff that we could talk about.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off with oh yeah, and then episode 2 of Tartaria, episode 2, I talked about the mud flood and how like
I
what
do remember
people think
that. Yeah.
happened was that there was like an advanced civilization in America before us. And then in something happened where they got covered with 20 to 30 feet of mud. And then they all went underground and then they came out, but all the adults died and all the kids came out. And that's why you had all the orphan trains and stuff. And then in episode 2, I went like volcano
Yes.
nerd and
Yeah.
was talking about how the mud flood could have actually been volcanic eruptions where the silt falls like snow, and then it's still like heavy like dirt and stuff, but it's like a really fine powder and it falls slowly like snow. So my hypothesis is that's what happened, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
So is there any other questions before we
No,
get
that's
into it?
that's a good one. Right. I just nope, go ahead. I watched another thing of this other YouTuber that I
Ooh.
watch called Dark Five,
Yeah.
and he did a like a little synopsis on something similar that happened. It was near Russia where they had like it was clouds that looked like snow, but it was actually radioactive ash, and there was like one person who survived out of the whole thing. It was
Oh
pretty cool.
wow.
It's an interesting story. Anyway, that reminded me of that. But
Out
no,
of all of Russia.
yeah, I remember not of all of Russia, that area of Russia where the cloud
Oh,
came by. Yeah.
okay. I'm going to
Anyway, that
apologize in
story went nowhere.
advance that I'm
What?
looking at my phone because my girlfriend hurt her back. So I said, if you need anything, just text me because I'm a wonderful person. And
He
she's
is.
looking after the baby with a hurt back while I podcast.
She is pretty wonderful.
So, okay, hold on. I'm just answering a text.
Okay. Do you want me to entertain the people while you answer text messages?
No, keep telling me about this Russian
Oh no,
cloud.
that was really it. I mean, most of them are kind of like it's not conspiracy theory. It's more like mysteries. It ended up it wasn't ash cloud, but they all thought it was snow, and it was somewhere where it doesn't traditionally snow. But
Okay.
yeah, so they thought it was snow, so they thought like, oh, I'm gonna play in this, and they're playing in this stuff, and they all ended up getting or most of them ended up dying of some kind of
Yeah.
horrific cancers.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Tartaria is as soon as you start looking into it, there's so many rabbit holes. They might as well call it like the rabbit hole empire because it's like
Rabbit.
my like I know like as everybody who listened to 1 and 2 knows, there's been like a couple-month gap and my algorithm finally stopped giving me Tartaria shit because I was like going
You
crazy.
stop
I'm like,
seeing it
wait,
like, yeah,
yeah, so some of the podcasts I'm gonna like mention, I took notes on them
in
because
reference
they're
them.
talking about stuff that wasn't about Tartaria, but it could be like you know how like
Yeah, you can tie
people
it together.
say, yeah, like people like basically like Anunnaki and Nephilim, how that you can tie them together.
Yeah,
So the first podcast I listened to was the Mysterious Universe, season 31, episode 18. Everybody who hasn't checked out Mysterious Universe, I highly recommend it. It's basically these two Australian guys and they have all these like paranormal books that they have like this huge library and then they just like read a book and then they talk about what was going on in the book and they talk about crazy shit. So obviously I love it.
yeah,
On this episode, they were talking about the Kali Yuga ending in 2025, and they had this
right.
guy talking about that. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then he kind of like, there was one segment of it that I kind of wanted to read you my notes because it's like eerily similar to what happened with the people going underground for Tartaria.
Yeah.
So the Kali Yuga is supposed to be ending in 2025.
Why do I
And
know
if you
that?
don't know what the Kali Yuga is, basically there's these Vedic texts. I think they're Buddhists or whatever, but there's some ancient religious texts, and the like world has these stages, and there's like it's like basically seasons, but they're like thousands
Right.
of years long. And so there's like the golden time, and then there's descent, then there's hell, then there's the coming out of hell, but not hell, but just like terrible times.
Yeah.
And Kali Yuga is us coming out of terrible times. So we're supposed to be headed into a golden age next year,
Ooh,
everybody. So maybe all
good.
this
Fucking finally.
fucking nightmare will end. Yeah,
Oh,
so
good.
he was talking about the Vedic text where when an age would change, these underground people would come take some people underground, kind of like how they saved Noah or whatever, but
Yeah.
it was like this like weird mole man version of Noah. And it was like, and the Hopi people have this like lore of ant people who live on they don't they're not people who look like ants. They're just people who live underground. And then they came up to like save humanity. Like when some big natural disaster or something happened, they would go live under caves. And that was
Yeah.
like that. We talked about this in episode 1. Remember that city that guy found? And then I couldn't remember the
The one that's
name.
in like Turkey that was like underneath
Yeah.
the, yeah. Oh my
Starts with a
God.
D. Durga. I don't know. I'm trying not to sound racist, but so I don't want to sound. Anyways,
So
it's
yeah,
like the
best
same
best to
thing.
avoid that.
Yeah. And then where was I? Oh yeah, and Mayans also have a legend of like people going underground and being saved. And it also has some dwarves. And then he's talking about how like
Darren
these people.
Kuyu.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. You know what's the sad thing is it was still, I should probably clear my fucking browser history because we did this 2 months ago and it popped up underground city in Turkey and I was like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
shit, I've already searched that.
So, and the funny thing was he's talking about these ant people or whatever, and these like dwarves, and they start saying shit like he says they would whistle and blocks of stones would move through the
Oh yeah,
air
yeah,
and
yeah,
shit.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
wait, did dwarves build the pyramid? It wasn't giants, it was the
It
opposite.
was the reverse. Yeah, it was dwarves
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
hummy powers. What the fuck? Sorry, I
So
don't know where that
yes,
came from.
I just want to also apologize in advance if this seems kind of choppy because I took all these notes and then I was like started researching some of them and then you just like
It
And
just
this is
goes
why I
more,
mean
it's
like
infinite branches, right?
rabbit hole empire, because
Yeah.
like Napoleon and Alexander come up, and then I was like started looking at that, and I was like, oh shit. And I started researching Genghis Khan, because the problem with ancient history is there's so fucking much of it, and it's
Yeah.
all so interesting. Well, not all, but there's so many interesting parts that as soon as like something comes up, you're like, oh wait, what the fuck is that? And the books I talk about later in my notes, they like the guy who I was saying had point for him. Sorry, I keep touching my face.
It's all good.
Um, he kept referring to stuff, and then I'd be like, fuck, now I gotta go look
Now you
that
gotta go
up.
look that up. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And then I
Right.
did that like 100 times, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call it. And then I was like, Jeff, are you ready to put Tartaria to bed?
Put
Because I'm ready to put
Tartaria to
Tartaria to
bed.
bed.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because yeah, like in episode
Because
2, I was
otherwise
like,
we could do more episodes on
oh
Tartaria
dude,
forever, right?
we could
Like
start fucking the Dale Show Tartaria edition, or the
it's just
Tartarian
like
show.
that's on our Patreon. You have to
Yeah,
subscribe to hear more about Tartaria.
there are influencers who all they talk about is Tartaria, which sounds awesome. But my problem is, now I'm not going to be one of those guys who's like, I have undiagnosed ADHD, but I have this thing where I'm researching stuff, and then I'll get bored of that when I hear about something else, and then I'll
Yeah.
want to go look into that.
And like you
Like,
said, right, history is rife with
oh yeah,
branches of and things that are interconnected and things that are yeah. It's so it's like never ending. You could just go on forever researching on stuff.
yeah. And then in episode 2, I talked about Ben the archivist.
Yeah.
And he was this guy who was on tinfoil hat number 783, where he talks about buried empires, petrified past, and anomalies. And this guy is like, I haven't like gotten around to going to his show, but it sounds super interesting, because what he does is he goes to university libraries, and he goes and reads like the microfiche from all the newspapers from like
Dude.
1880 and all this
Yeah.
shit. And he finds all this crazy shit.
Yeah, man.
And apparently there's a whole bunch of nuts stuff. And I was like, man, that would be fun to Google right after I stopped looking after my kid and going to work and doing dishes
Yeah.
and fucking playing video games and all that other stuff and researching Tartaria.
So back before the internet existed, and I think I told you this one time before, like this was when I worked in Kamloops,
mhm.
and I was working as a journalist, and myself and a fellow journalist and I went into the Kamloops archives. So you know that other building that was like kind of by the library,
Mhm.
and they had microfiche from the 1800s in there, and you
Oh,
could go
wow.
through it, and that's where I learned about the way that why KSS has all those like catacombs beneath it. The school
It
had
has
all the like.
catacombs beneath it.
Did we not go over this on the podcast on one of the
Mm-mm.
podcasts? I'm pretty sure we talked about this. This is how I learned about it. There was
Yeah.
like there was a flood and it washed away the graveyard and
Mhm.
it destroyed the school, and they rebuilt the school on the location that they thought the school was on, but they actually buried it. They built the school on top of the old cemetery because they kept finding caskets like further down from where the cemetery used to be because the flood pushed it all out there. And there's like all this information was in the old newspapers. And we
Wow,
were just like,
crazy.
what the hell? And that's why KSS has ghosts and the Sagebrush Theater is haunted, right? So that it was a Halloween one that we were working on, but we
Oh
scrolled
yeah.
through the microfiche and you could go forever and look at all of these stories. And it was like from all that interior area, it was
Mhm.
pretty Wild West. So it was like news flash, blah blah blah. All these things are happening. The new school built, and then you like research a little later on. They found out that they built the school on the old they accidentally rebuilt the school on the old burial site.
Or is this just like the Tartarian Empire, where that school was there for 100 years, and they just jammed a whole bunch of
The bodies
all the
underneath
bodies of
it.
the people who went underground to try out save this natural disaster? They're like,
Yeah,
yeah, this old school just washed
it
away.
just
We
washed away.
don't know where it was. We didn't have any markers, no pictures, no nothing. There's no way
That's
to
the
tell
thing,
where
right?
a building
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
So we guessed where it was. And now it's this like nice, giant, good building
and
that
that's
we
what it
just
was,
happened to
right?
build.
Yeah,
But there's all these caverns underneath that are full of bodies. So don't go
yeah,
down
yeah.
there.
So don't go down there. Maybe don't go down there. So why
Dude,
would you build fucking access tunnels then?
that's wild, because that's
Yeah,
exactly the shit that was like in
I swear we brought
France.
this
That we were
up. No,
we were
yeah.
talking about
Oh, that's why we're
France
talking
and
about France.
stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Croatia, because Croatia has
Croatia's full of
like
that stuff too. And there's
they
like
have
castles built on top of like weird old
they have
catacombs.
1,500 miles of catacombs under Croatia, and
Isn't
they
there a castle there somewhere that has like they have
oh,
never
I'd
found the
imagine
bottom of the
so.
pit? No, there's like a pit in the middle of the castle, and they've never found the bottom of the pit. Like it's like an endless pit in the middle of
Jesus.
the
You know
castle.
where else there was a pit full
Where?
of dead bodies? Benjamin Franklin's house.
Oh, what?
Jesus. Yeah.
What?
There was like a pit where our Benjamin Franklin's house was, where it was like a well or something, and they found like 200 bodies or
Oh my
something.
God.
And
He
then
was,
they're
he was
like,
experimenting on people.
and they're like, Benjamin Franklin definitely didn't rape these bodies. He definitely didn't kill these bodies. They were all like scientific experiments that were totally not creepy or anything. And you're like, because the more you hear about like these old guys who are
Yeah.
like rich back then, who are like dudes who were like, oh, I flew a kite and a fucking lightning bolt hit it. You don't think that guy's into some weird freaky
Yeah,
sex
he's into
shit?
some weird freaky shit. Yeah,
Yeah, he was like,
absolutely.
I was trying to discover electricity or do some weird occult shit.
Okay, I got to read now. It's Jeff Reed's Wikipedia.
Okay,
It's
hit me, baby.
Huska Castle in Croatia, and most specifically the chapel, was constructed over a large hole in the ground that is a gateway to hell, which is allegedly so deep that no one could see to the bottom of it. Animal-human hybrids were reported to have crawled out of it, and dark-winged otherworldly creatures flew in
What
its
the
vicinity.
fuck?
Legend has it that when construction began on the castle, all of the prisoners that were sentenced to death were offered a pardon if they consented to be lowered by rope into the hole and report back on what they saw. When the first person was lowered, he began screaming after a few seconds, and when pulled back to the surface, he looked as if he had aged 30 years, had grown wrinkles, and his hair had turned white.
That's amazing. Put a
So this is
GoPro in
in
that hole.
Yeah, this is Prague. According to the Prague tourism website, the castle is reputed to have various types of ghosts, a bullfrog slash human creature, a headless horse, and an old woman, as well as the remains of demonic beasts who escaped the pits.
Dude, let's
The
fucking go.
The pit in the lower levels of the castle is said to be a gateway to hell. Thus, by constructing the Gothic building's defensive walls facing inward, they were able to keep the demons trapped in the lower levels' thickest walls close to the hull of the castle.
Oh my God. Is this hole still there?
Yeah, man, it's still there. It's the Gothic castle in Blatz in the Liberic region of the Czech Republic.
Can we like,
It's north of Prague.
okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
Would you go in the hole?
It's me, so yes.
I'm like,
Give me a
I'm
hole,
like,
I'll go in it. It's no,
I'm
I'm just
like,
kidding.
fuck yes, I'll go in the hole. But then I'm like, ooh, no,
I
don't put me in the hole. That's the
dude,
last thing I want. But I'm like, yeah, but in the hole. But you're like,
I like your
eh,
your initial option of throwing a camera down there. Like just
yeah.
chuck a GoPro in, see what's what, right? Or lower it down or see how
Oh
far
my
you can
God.
get. It's have you ever watched those magnet fishing videos on YouTube? I get addicted to those sometimes
Oh no.
where they like take a magnet and they throw it in the water and they pull stuff up like bikes and guns and all
Do
kinds
they
of crazy
pull
shit.
bullfrog people up?
I wish. So yeah, but it needs to be that. So that's why I like have kind of dreams of that. Like you whip a GoPro down a well and just see how like keep adding rope until you find the bottom.
Dude, I want paranormal shit to be real just for the scary TikToks.
Oh,
Fuck,
absolutely.
do I love I don't like
Do
horror
you?
movies because I don't like being scared for an hour and a
I
half,
hate horror movies.
but I love creepy TikToks. Like
Dude, the
20
only
seconds.
TikTok, the only
Oh,
TikTok I've ever posted is a creepy TikTok.
oh really?
It was like weird dust motes blowing outside of my night vision camera outside of the front of my house.
Okay, here's what we do.
What?
Everybody, I have a Patreon, The Dale Show. Give us money. Me and Jeff are going to this
Go to
fucking
Prague.
devil's asshole
We'll
in
put stuff in
Prague.
the hole.
We're too old to party, so don't worry about us
I'm
wasting
not
money
drinking
in
any beers. I
Prague.
get heartburn.
Wait, where is this?
Yeah,
Prague.
it's in Prague. It's just north of Prague.
Can
It's in the Czech Republic.
Okay, I was just gonna be like, can I like admit I'm a dumb person and not know what country Prague is in?
Yeah, it's in the Czech Republic.
For
That's the
some
country.
reason, it's like you say Prague and all that stuff. I'm like, ah, it's Russia. Oh, hey,
Former Czechoslovakia.
you know what?
It's
Let's go there because this would be research for
It
Tartaria. You
would
know
be
what?
research for Tartaria. Yeah.
Hit the Patreon up. You could turn this into a pure Tartarian
Dale and I
fucking
would do that.
podcast.
We would go to Prague and go
Yeah,
look in a hole and report
dude.
back.
Oh my God, could you imagine being a professional devil's butthole researcher?
Devil's butthole searcher.
Whatever it's called, the hold to hell.
Yeah.
Oh
That'd be
man,
fun. Dude, I would love that. That would be
dude,
so much
now
fun.
all I want to talk about is devil's butthole.
I'm
Fuck Tartaria.
sorry.
Let's talk about this hole that goes to
No,
the
no, let's
devil's
get back.
ass.
I saw it on like the Discovery Channel or some shit, and I was like fascinated by it, and I totally wanted to go.
That's a
Ghengis Khan.
discovery.
Yeah.
Zing. Okay.
Hey,
So
back on the Tartaria wagon. Let's
this
put
Ben
this to
Ben
bed.
guy, I
Yeah.
talked about this guy a little bit on episode 2, but then I like digressed because I was recording by myself and I just went down the road on like some
He
like
went down.
self-help
He
speech. And
can't be left alone. He can't be
yeah, I
left alone to
can't.
his own
I need
devices.
Jeff. I need Jeff to
I
bring up
need to be
Devil's
here.
Butthole and
Yeah.
why Kamloops is haunted.
Yeah. That's why I'm here. That's the whole sole
Okay.
reason I exist.
So he was saying that most major cities in the US have underground tunnels and infrastructure that they don't use. Just like Kamloops does. Vancouver apparently has some that were
Yeah.
mail tunnels because they didn't want to take mail on the streets. So they built all these tunnels.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And then
They built tunnels, mail tunnels. You could
the
tell
real
two
reason
little
they have
balls.
these tunnels and shit is because they were built on the ruins of older cities.
Right.
Like it's funny because in the Middle East and shit, you'll like go to an old city and it's built on
Oh,
a city
dude.
that's built on a city and it's built on a
In
city.
Europe, like
Yeah.
when I went to Belgium and Brussels is like 3 cities deep,
Yeah. And it's like
right?
we're just like, oh, this is the first, these are the first cities in America. We started from like,
Yeah.
it was basically like the plains with Buffalo and then Chicago just sprung up. It's like, no,
Yeah.
there's more to it. I mean, I don't really, I'm agnostic about Tartaria. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That's
I
fair.
don't believe there was these ancient cities and there was this big empire, but if you give me proof, I will believe. I'll be happy to be convinced. There we go. Okay, as all of you might have noticed, since I sound like more less pumped and amped up yesterday, I was on a whole bunch of caffeine. Me and Jeff had to temporarily pause the show overnight because my baby was going nuts and my girlfriend has a sore back. So I had to go be, I don't know, I don't want to say super dad, but I had to just go be a dad.
You could say super dad. You could say you're super dad. That's
Well,
cool.
yeah,
You could
yeah,
say
she
that.
doesn't listen to this.
No,
Being a
you're
super
fine.
dad. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm wearing a different shirt. And
I'm just wearing a black shirt because I always wear black shirts. So I was like, it's pretty
there
continuity
you
based.
go.
Yeah, it's
There you go.
a slightly different black shirt from yesterday.
Noise. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention it so people didn't, there was like people listening to this who aren't watching this, just being like, why does this seem different? This seems like a whole different episode.
Yeah.
So good thing that Dale has point form notes from all the stuff he did.
Good thing.
And it's weird because I want to recap what we did, but everybody who's listening to this would have been like, dude, that was 10 seconds ago.
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
over it.
That
Just
just
go.
happened. It just happened.
Just go. You
Don't
guys
recap.
ramble so much. Don't
Yeah.
ramble more. And then I would say, sorry, that's the
Tough,
podcast.
tough beans. That's podcast
Yeah.
life.
That's
Tough
podcast life.
podcast schlife.
That's
Schleif.
pod business, baby. I was like that saying that show business, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
Show business, baby. It's pod business, baby.
Okay. So we were just talking about Chicago and how there's ruins under other older cities and stuff. And in New York and Paris, one thing that keeps happening is whenever they're building a subway, for whatever reason, they bust into another tunnel that they didn't know was there.
Oh yeah.
So this guy Ben, he's like, that's because a previous civilization built it. And anybody who's had to deal with anybody to do with keeping records and drawings in any business knows that they probably built it and just forgot where it was because
Dude,
they're terrible at keeping track of shit.
you should see our shared drive. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Ask anybody
Yeah.
who's like, yeah, I couldn't find anything from 2023 on our drive.
Oh
But
Jesus! Like last year?
yeah, like last year, I found everything from like
Yeah.
1989 up to 2022. And then 23 has disappeared. And then I just started a folder called Marketing 24. And I'm like, hey, everybody, this is where the marketing stuff is. And I think
Yeah.
everyone in succession who takes any of these roles would do the same thing. So it's that same jam. Like, you know, I had somebody go like, did you know that they serve X at this event? And I'm like, nope, no clue. Never seen that event before in my life. And they're like, oh yeah, they've traditionally done this every year. And I'm like, cool. There was no record of last year's event. So it's just like, yeah. So it's like drilling into a tunnel and finding a random hole.
Mhm. But I just Wikipedia searched when the first New York City subway was built, and it was October 27th, 1904.
Wow,
So we're
holy
like
shit.
on 120-year anniversary next month,
120 years of holes.
which after reading about Tartaria, anytime anything is close to the 1883 date, you're just like,
Eh,
So this is 20 years after like the supposed, I guess, Tartaria 0 hour day. I don't
right.
even know what you call, but a lot of shit to do with Tartaria happened in 1883. And if I was a professional, I could have a list for you, but I just thought of this anyway. Okay.
There might be some ties to Europe too in that way, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
because 1883 is really like the one of the defining points in American history where the US is like has when did the US secede? 1886,
Was this
right?
1776?
I don't know. I'm not an American.
Okay,
Uh
wait. I got my Googles open. I'll Google it. US independence.
there we go.
How many American
1776?
is that what you got?
I don't know.
Oh, that was my guess. 1776. Dale knows
Oh,
stuff. Look at
I was right. No, that's
Dale
what I
and
said.
his giant brain. You said 1886.
No, no, yeah, okay, never mind. So never mind. Forget it. Forget it.
Don't steal this from me, Jeff.
I
I
won't. This is
barely know
all
anything
this is this
out
is
of the
all
blue.
you. You
I
got it.
never get history stuff right.
You
That's
got it
why
right.
it's funny because with this podcast, you'd think I'm obsessed with history, but every history class I ever took, I failed pretty much in high school and college. I had to go to school for high school for an extra half year because I failed history.
Really?
And then in college, I failed history. But then what happened was one college history course was on the fucking Middle Ages. And I was like, oh
Oh,
shit,
hell yeah. Let's
history can be
go.
interesting. And then that's when I
Yes.
heard about the Templar Knights and stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
Of course, I had the big school whitewashed version where they didn't kiss each other's
No.
bums.
Sorry, 1 second. Can I mute myself?
Yeah, go for it.
Just my
We could just here. I'll pause the recording. Oh
roll
yeah, dude.
this.
They definitely kissed each other's butts. Well, they didn't. They kissed
Is it
each
like a
other on the
ritual thing?
small of the back. It's actually one of the reasons why King Louis. Oh fuck, I can't. I think
Is
the
that why you
third.
were interested in
Oh
history
yeah,
all of a
dude. I
sudden?
was like
Like, are we
knights
smooching
kissing
lower
each
backs
other's
right
lower
now?
backs. Yeah, they would like.
Mwah.
Well, there was these rumors that they're doing heresy, and one of the heresy was brother
Doing
love.
I love doing heresy. They were doing the heresies.
Oh man, that should be the slogan of our podcast. Doing heresy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Welcome to the
that's the
Dale Show.
slogan.
We're doing heresy.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
So one of the reasons why they got everybody to like because everybody loved the Templar Knights because they basically were protecting people when they're pilgrimaging to the holy sites in the Levant area, which is Israel and stuff.
Pilgrimaging? Oh, a tough word.
Pilgriming,
Pilgrimaging.
doing pilgrimage.
Doing pilgrimage. Let's
There
go
you
with
go.
that.
Doing heresy, doing
Doing
pilgrimage.
heresy and
Let's
pilgrimage.
go. And
Yeah.
yeah, so everybody fucking loved them. The Pope loved them because they basically kept like Catholics in the Levant region for
Yeah.
like 300 extra years more than they should. But King Louis hated them because he fucking owed them so much money. So one of the reasons
Right.
was he said they were doing like sacrilegious shit and they were doing homoerotic shit. And one of the other things was he said that they had like was it who did the what was this? Was it the Secret Book of Paul that we did with the um not the agnostics, the fucking that religious one we did 3 parts of. Why can't I fucking think of this? Oh my god, my brain just broke.
Mine is too, because as soon as you said agnostics, that's all I could
No,
think about.
yeah, Gnostics,
The
not agnostics, just Gnostics.
Gnostic, not no,
Yeah,
Gnostic.
so
Yeah.
remember
Yes.
how that was like the Secret
Gnosticism.
Book of Paul, like Paul the Baptist or whatever.
Yeah.
So one of the other
Yeah.
things that they said they had was they had relics that were like sacrilegious. So they one of the things they supposedly had was this box made of Paul's head. Yeah, of Paul's head
Oh
that
yeah. So that
like
like yeah, a
it was all
reliquary.
like
They had like
gilded with
something they
silver
carry
and stuff, and
around.
they kept like
Yeah.
and supposedly inside of that they kept the tip of the spear that stabbed the side of Jesus and stuff. Yeah,
Did you
so
know
needless to say, that's how I got
when I was
interested in
in
history. Sorry.
I totally get it, dude. When I
Yeah.
was in Belgium, I was there for the Festival of Blood or whatever it is, and
Ooh, talk
there's
about
this
doing
town that,
heresy.
dude, doing heresy. There's a city. Oh my god, I can't remember if I was in Bruges or if I was in Brussels. One of those two cities. There's this festival, and
Listen
we're
to
like, what
Mr.
the fuck
fucking
is this?
Global over here. I can't
I
remember if I was in
yeah,
Bruges
it was
or
somewhere. It was
Brussels.
somewhere in Belgium,
Yeah.
and they were having this parade, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening here?" And it was the Festival of Blood, and it was called Blood in Belgian language, which I
Hmm.
is French, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's like Bluued, and I was like, and there's these dudes walking down the street, and like in their full Catholic garb, and apparently in this city they have a drop of Jesus's blood. So that's their reliquary, the holy reliquary. There's this one priest, and he's carrying this golden stick,
Yeah.
and on the top of the golden stick is a box, and in a golden box, and inside the golden box is like purple velvet, and inside that purple velvet is a golden vial, and inside that golden vial is apparently a drop of Jesus's blood.
Drink it.
I,
Drink it
dude,
right now.
you couldn't get within feet of that. There were guards armed up and down the street. It was
Yeah.
wild.
Okay. Here's a bet. How much do you
Okay.
okay, let's just say at one point they had a drop of Jesus's blood. For real, for really real, it was in that vial. What's the percentage you give that it's still in there and nobody drank it?
Oh, it was Bruges. Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. Somebody drank it for sure.
Yeah.
And they just replaced it with wine or something, right? Like that's absolutely what it did. Yeah. So the event is called it was the Procession of Holy Blood held in Bruges. It's the modern continuation of a medieval tradition of parading through the city with what was said to be the coagulated blood of Christ taken from his body after the descent from the cross.
Dude,
So
how
yeah,
much do you think vampires attack that parade?
so much. So I accidentally witnessed this event, and it's like literally dudes with shields walking down the street, and like those hats. God, I can't remember what they're called. If you look them up,
Like the
they
Pope
basically
hats?
no, not the Pope hats. We would assume that they were KKK hats if we didn't know any better.
Oh, pointed hats?
Yeah,
Pointed hats of priest guards. See if that works.
they have a name.
Pointed hat? Is that the
No, it's not
name?
pointed hat. No, it's not. It's gonna.
Is it the one that's like the Pope wears where it's like looks like a fish?
No, that's a miter.
Oh,
I know that that's called a miter. I know that that's called a miter. Oh my
a
god, what is this
Beretta?
point? Maybe God, I think it's more Spain, like
Capirote?
something like that.
Yeah, it's the Catholic pointed hat of conical form that is used
Yeah,
in Spain and Hispanic
yeah, the capirote,
countries.
yeah, or caparot or caparot or whatever it is.
Capirote.
Yes, yeah.
Caparot.
And if you look at like all the pictures of them, they basically they have holes in the eyes. That's basically where the KKK got
Oh, really?
their design from,
Those
right?
fucking
Yeah, look
rip-off
up. Did
artists.
you look up the pictures of the capirote? So there were dudes like wearing that hat at the back of the procession, and I like was like, "What the fuck is happening?" And I sort of only half knew about it, but I was like, "Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's like
dude,
yeah." I was like, "It's some religious thing,
that is
right?"
fucked. And they're super tall. They're like
Yeah, they're super tall. They're
green and
basically
blue.
yeah, and there's that the green and the blue ones are like very specific to certain priests, and there's red ones that are it's if you're a certain designation. The regular priests just wear white ones.
Okay, I'm gonna save this image as, and then before I forget
Yeah.
about it, and then
So yeah,
put it
it's that one that
in.
the KKK took their uniforms from that religious sect. But
That's
anyway, so I
nuts.
saw them walking down wearing those hats, and I was like, "What in the fuck parade are we at?" Like I was super worried for a second, and then I realized what was going on. And I was
That's
like, "Oh, that's yeah,
nuts.
yeah." It was pretty crazy. That was exactly 15 years ago because my wife was just pregnant with our son, who is now 14.
Okay. Oh,
Anyway,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and
Sorry.
then Paris is honeycombed underneath with tunnels that they don't know where
Yeah.
they are or what they're from.
And we
So,
talked a bit about that yesterday too.
dude, here's something that's crazy that Ben was saying that's related to the orphan train and shit. He said 80% of the working population of the Industrial Revolution was under 16.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
Big
child
if
labor
true.
laws weren't a thing.
Yeah.
Big,
And then
big if true.
And then he said some fucking wild shit that has nothing to do with anything, but I put it in, and you're gonna know exactly why I put it in 2 points. So the
Okay.
royalty of Europe supposedly had baby farms. He knows this because he saw it in like newspapers. They were just like
Yeah.
talking about it because
Microfiche.
yeah, they didn't have fucking feelings or emotions back then. So
Sorry, my son was bashing shit.
yeah,
Hey, he's done now. Okay.
teenagers, all that angst.
God
Can you
damn
blame
it.
them?
I'm going to
And
send you back to Belgium with the blood.
he's like, I can't believe the Spanish wear caparotes just like the KKK. How is
Yeah.
religion real?
How is religion real? Yeah, pretty much.
So the
Yeah.
royalty of Europe had baby farms, and it was publicly known and discussed in
Insane.
newspapers. St. Petersburg had 15,000
My
during the
God.
war, like during the war in like the 1870s or whatever. They would slaughter all the parents and keep the kids and indoctrinate them into their own cultures. So basically, it's like if you go to war, way back they used to like take the parents as slaves and stuff, but
Yep.
now, or not
Just
now,
kill
but
them.
like during
Now,
this time
during that
period,
time period. Yeah.
he was saying that they would just kill the parents, and then if like babies are like under a certain age, like kids, they'd just be like, oh, you were always us. And it's like all these cultures were all white, so it's not like you look ethnically different, so
Right.
you'd just be like, yeah, you're
Yeah, I
ours.
guess
And
I
then
am.
yeah, and then
That'd
you
be
would
weird.
just like, that's like that fucking, remember that Canadian heritage moment about keeping their Irish names?
Oh,
When they're like,
yes.
no,
Yeah.
mom, mama, papa said we must keep our Irish names. It's like you start to think of like stuff like that, and you're like, well, were we just like they sent a boatload of kids over from Ireland during
Yeah.
the famine, and the commercial is like saying how like their parents died, but when they sent them over, they're like, you have to keep your parents' name. It's like, what if that was all like weird Tartaria shit where they just had like all these kids and they just sent them over, and it was like, I don't know.
Yeah. The parents didn't actually die in a famine. It was,
Yeah,
they were like, what do we do with these kids now? And they're
yeah.
just send them to the new world. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just send them over to the new world. They can dig some more
Make
holes
them
under the
fucking go
kids.
work in factories and on farms. Put
Yeah,
them on the
totally.
orphan trains.
Yeah.
And
Man, wild.
apparently, during the World Fairs, like the one in Chicago I previously mentioned, they would have rooms full of incubator babies, and you could just go buy one like a fucking vending machine. You go to the window and you'd pick.
Man,
Hey,
how do you think?
remember like when we were kids and we'd watch TV shows and you'd go to the hospital after you had a kid, and they would have them all in like bassinets in the same room?
Yeah, dude, I was in one of those.
They don't do that anymore.
No, they don't.
When we had Ruby, they put us in a room. I
Yeah,
guess I shouldn't have said her name anyway. Well, anyways, they put us in a room and they put her in one of those, but they just put her in the room with us.
yeah,
Like they don't
really.
separate. Yeah, they don't separate them anymore because apparently it made us all fucked up.
Like socially, or
Yeah, like apparently it's bad for babies. I don't know. They're like, there's all this shit that changed that you like don't even realize, because the only thing I knew about babies growing up was from movies and TV.
yeah. Our son
Yeah.
was born in our basement, so we don't.
Is that why he's so loud?
That's why that's why he's so loud. He has no regard for other people. Yeah,
He's like, I'm a basement baby. That's what I
yeah.
do.
I'm a basement baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty funny. Yeah, he was born in a basement, like a few hundred meters from where we are right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, different house.
So yeah, the World's Fair had these incubators, and guess what?
What?
Seinfeld said his dad and mom were incubator babies.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
So now I'm just picturing his TV parents and not his real parents. I'm picturing Jerry Stiller being in an
Yeah.
incubator. Let me out here.
That's George's dad.
Oh, sorry, George's dad.
Because I
Right. Oh, yeah, it's
immediately
the other guy. Sorry, I
I
was thinking
immediately
George's
went
dad.
there too.
I've been
And then I
exposed
was
for
like, wait,
my
that's no,
yeah.
that's George's
I've
dad.
immediately been exposed for my non-Seinfeldian humor. Somebody else made a Seinfeld reference the other day that I was hanging out with, and it just went right over my head. And I've watched Seinfeld. I've watched like the whole series,
Dude,
but
it's okay if you miss 30-year-old references.
yeah, no, he.
That's how
But
old
yeah,
Seinfeld is.
it's 30 years old. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
god,
Yeah.
dude, that's nuts. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I got an invite to my 30-year reunion the other day.
Oof.
Yeah, woof indeed.
No thanks. Getting up from a chair reminds me I'm old. I don't need to go to my old high
like,
school.
like also I've lived in like 10 different places since I went to high school and I don't know
Yeah.
anybody. So why would I go? But thanks for the invite. There's like maybe two people that I liked.
Mm.
Anyway,
Okay,
holes.
so we're gonna skip through my notes because I've just because yeah. Do you want to just do all the notes or do you want to skip through?
Do whatever you want, man. Go where we need to
Okay.
go. So where do you want to go from holes and like what else? What did you want to wrap up about
We're
Tartaria? Like
oh,
what are we
we're
trying to get
still
to
oh
the end?
fuck. Well, I haven't even gotten to that book one. I'm still doing
Get to the book.
Ben
Let's do that.
Ben's notes.
Okay.
Okay,
No,
wait,
move
let's
on. Move on. Next notes.
okay. Next notes or keep doing Ben's notes because there's some
No,
cool
no.
shit in here.
Well, okay. What do you want to do?
Let's just keep doing Ben's notes.
Okay.
You know what? If we have to do Tartaria 4,
Oh
we'll
my
do
god.
Tartaria 4.
Right after you said let's put this to bed.
I know. I definitely want to put this to bed because it feels like homework.
Yeah.
But I also spent all this time doing research and I'm so bitter whenever I have to do research that if I don't use it, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's like my dad wasting money. I'm just like, I wasted my time.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's yeah, totally. It is.
Okay. So the kings and leaders of Tartaria had the designation Khans or Khan, as in actually,
Genghis. Genghis?
fuck.
Genghis?
Fuck, I shouldn't have read that. Anyways,
Why
yeah.
not?
So, anyways, in Mesoamerica, it relates to the Paleo Hebrew or Paleo Phoenician language. So then they think that the Americas could have been the true old world. And in a civil war of Mesoamerica, the queen fled to Egypt and took her history with her. So all of the, because like in like South America, there's all these like same hieroglyphics and
Yeah.
imagery as in Egypt. And Ben saying that maybe it was in South America first and
Man, I have
Egypt
such a
was
hard
second.
time. I have such a hard time when you say Ben Ben. Because
Yeah.
like who has two names like that?
I think it's his like screen name or whatever. Because it was probably when he made it, Ben was taken, so he just put Ben. And
Oh
it's
no,
just
you know what? You know what Ben
what?
Ben is? It's
What?
the in the creation myth of the Heliopolitan form of ancient Egyptian religion. Ben Ben was a mound that arose from the primordial waters Nu, upon which the creator deity Autumn settled. The Ben Ben stone, also known as a pyramidion, is the top stone of the pyramid. So yeah,
Oh,
it's definitely the
interesting.
Ben Ben stone is the top of the pyramid. So
You know
it's taken
what?
from that. What?
I'm gonna name my dick Ben because it's a
The tip
mound
of
that
the
raised from
pyramid.
primordial ooze.
The tip of the pyramid. My nose is Ben Ben. It's the top of the pyramid.
The tip of the pyramid. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So and it was he was saying was Atlantis was America north and south, and it wasn't an actual island. It was advanced merchant and trading people with technology, and the sinking of Atlantis could actually be referring to the mud flood,
This is some
burying
like
America.
Graham Hancock shit. Like there
Oh,
was
this is
a whole other race with or a whole other
yeah.
species with high technology 10,000 years before now.
Yeah. So it's like this is like I love this shit because it's just off the wall. And he was saying like they had like the free energy and the advanced
Yeah.
technology and travel, and they had all these like Masonic and cultist literature. And or sorry, and then there's this Masonic and some cultist literature that describes the Americas as the hidden Atlantis, and it was off limits to many of the seafaring civilizations of the Mediterranean. So it
Huh.
wasn't like they
Off
couldn't
limits.
get to the new world until Christopher Columbus came. It was that they weren't allowed to type of deal
Right. Okay.
until they like forgot or whatever.
Yeah.
And then oh, here's another crazy one. So you know how they say like all there's all these myths that said that like ancient Egypt was built by giants and then
Yes.
like so and this relates to Tartaria because some of the buildings that were like covered in the mud flood have huge doorways because they think they might have been built for giants. So this guy says the earth used to have a vapor layer over it. Like, you know, in a tropical rainforest, how there's like the tree canopy covers totally and then it like creates its own vapor layer with the canopy and it would
Yeah.
affect everything below. So he's saying that this vapor layer, for whatever reason, was like above the earth. And because it would have a different mixture of the air underneath this canopy, the air would have more oxygen rich. It was more oxygen
So
rich.
things could get bigger,
Yeah, so everything would grow
which would
bigger.
explain like dinosaurs and stuff.
Well, this is like what this is like
Pre.
explaining like giants. This is after dinosaurs and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, they say that one of the reasons dinosaurs were so big was Earth's atmosphere had way more air in it because the
Or
reason
oxygen, not air necessarily, but
or yeah,
oxygen.
sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like the reason this is because the way blood has to pump oxygen to our muscles to move, and the bigger we are, the more oxygen we need, and there is a finite point where a human could get to where the blood doesn't pump enough oxygen. But if there's like basically if there's more oxygen in the air, your blood doesn't have to pump as hard because it's more oxygen rich and blah blah blah. So if there's more oxygen, you just get bigger.
Yeah.
And that's also why hyperbaric chambers that have more oxygen and pressure in them, they heal you faster because more oxygen goes to your muscles and it repairs
It
itself and
repairs
stuff.
it faster. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there was like a basic hyperbaric effect. So since the earth used to have this higher oxygen, you would have had giant people, trees, and animals.
Right.
And like, have you ever seen the like giant tree conspiracy stuff where they'll have like those they're like those mountains where they're like ragged on the sides and then they're just flat on the top. And some people are like, these are like giant trees that were cut down and stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. That would explain that. And then the collapsing of this vapor canopy is what could have happened, what could have made Noah's flood, and that could have also turned into the ice age because all this water would have been up in
Yeah.
the air.
It would have been vapor and it would have turned to water and it would have
Yeah.
like changed the consistency of everything. Right.
Yeah. And one other thing that could have happened for like the mud flood type of deal is the volcano that made the like dirt mist or whatever could have be what collapsed that water vapor canopy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay. And then
I like how you love to say mud flood.
mud flood.
It rhymes. It's so good. It rhymes.
Okay, and then this guy's saying how there's this the wall of Mississippi. It's a thing. I googled it. It's crazy, and it ran from Mexico to Michigan. There's in Texas. There's a piece of it left. It's called the Rock Wall in Texas, and it's this like 30-foot wall that nobody knows why it's there, and they're like, oh, it's natural and stuff, but you could see it's like built of stones.
What's it
And
called?
Rock Wall in Rockwall, Texas, there's a wall. I think it's called the Great Rock Wall or Great Rock Wall.
Yeah, right there.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. It looks like
the
bricks.
Great Rock Wall.
And it's not a
Yeah.
natural geographic formation
No, because it looks like there's bricks in it. I don't know. I looked at
or
a couple
geological
pictures and
formation.
I
I
was
said
like,
geographic formation. I meant geological formation.
yeah, it could have
I
been
see what
like
you
the
mean.
crystalline structures or whatever.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then a farmer had a wall going through his property, and the stone was cut so good enough that he claimed it had to be made by man. They dug down 60 feet and didn't hit the bottom of the wall.
Wow.
People in Mississippi took apart this wall and used the stones to construct some buildings in Mississippi. And there's also another thing called the Brandywine Wall,
Yeah.
which I think is the same wall. So he's saying that there's this wall that went from like fucking Mississippi to Mexico. Maybe it was like a
Well, I
like
mean, there's
America's Great Wall, like how China has a Great
yeah,
Wall.
I mean,
But
there's other walls like there's Hadrian's Wall in England, right? That separates
Mm.
England from Scotland, and it's
Oh
huge
yeah.
and long and gigantic as well.
And then this
There's
guy says in Mexico, they were trying to dig a well and found the ruins of 4 cities, and the bottom one had Chinese hieroglyphics on
oh shit, there's
it. Yeah.
Chinese hieroglyphics in there.
And they said all the underground military bases were old world and were taken over recently. Under Nevada, there was so many mines in Nevada that they are interconnected railways,
Yeah.
and there were cities. Um,
Well, I know that for a fact that there's tons of mines in Nevada. It's like a huge mining center. So yeah, I could see them running into each other as they're mining stuff through the ground.
okay, so now we're done with Ben Bed notes.
Whoa,
Finally.
okay. All
So
right.
now we're going on to my last chunk of notes. I just want to mention one TikTok thing that I saw.
Okay.
This was totally a side I saw like a week or two ago. And there's this guy, William Morris, in the late 1700s, and he apparently went through the ice wall. Like he was like you know how they say there's an ice wall in Atlantis or
Yeah.
something. So apparently he was like going to this ice and they saw a hole in it and he started to go through it and they got scared. They tried to go back, but they're getting sucked through. And on the other side was a utopian society. And there was a guy named Tulliver in there, and he said that they were like there was this like giant ship and it was like protecting this entrance to go back from the inner ice wall to the outer ice wall. And he said this guy on the outside said these guys were on the ship were welcome to live with them in this utopian thing. I'll put the notes in the
Cool.
in the
In the
or I'll
description.
put the link in the show notes. But yeah, so he was saying that the inner ice wall society kept resetting and then tyrants would raise and stuff. And I was like, oh, that makes me think of Tartaria, like how Tartaria was like
Yeah.
this
It's
reset
that
and they're
same
trying to hire
structure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
Weird.
another cool idea. Um,
Yeah,
okay,
maybe
yeah.
I can get
So
on TikTok.
are you not on TikTok?
I'm on TikTok. I just never use it. I can't
Oh,
remember the last time I opened it.
it's hit and miss. Like sometimes I love TikTok. Like
Yeah.
I love watching creepy videos on TikTok and I love like people scaring each other, like jump scares, or they're
Jump
just like,
scares.
ah.
Yeah.
And then, but there's just like, so there's also a lot of annoying TikTok where it's like people proselytizing or whatever and it's boring. And then,
The
yeah. Anyways,
one that I follow that, oh yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah. So what you're
Oh,
going to
just
say?
one of the TikTokers that I follow that I actually really like, but I find it like also slash creepy, but also slash hilariously resourceful and interesting is this guy called Jose Monkey. And he'll
Mm-hmm.
find you wherever you are. So you take a photo and you're like, Jose Monkey, find me. And then he goes and he's like, he triangulates their position on the earth from like the background photo, and like where it came from, and like he'll find where this person was within a couple hundred meters.
Oh, wow.
It's
Nice.
fucking crazy. It's crazy.
There's another guy I can't remember when he like people post a photo and he'll like figure it out because he
Yeah.
like memorized everything. It's
Yeah.
nuts. It's like the same thing, I guess. Okay, so this book, this is The Mud Flood Hypothesis by the Charles Rivers editors. I mentioned it before.
Yep.
Um, so the mud flood is a global deluge of mud that caused cities and land to sink into the earth, leading to the rewriting of history by various political authorities over the past 200 years. So this is the theory of mud flood. In 1839, mud flood theory, Alexander Heinovich, a cult leader for the revival of neo-paganism.
All right, let's go.
And then another name that's like there's two guys that are responsible for basically responsible for we even knowing what Tartaria was, and that's Anatoly Fomenko, and he was born in 1945 and is still alive. He's 79 years old, and he wrote this thing called the New Chronology. And then there was a guy before him. Oh no, he was after. Oh, weird. Sorry, never mind. I thought that since Nikolai Levashov is dead, he was born first and he was the older one.
Oh, but he's
But
not. He just died earlier.
yeah, he was born in 1961 and died in 2012.
Uh-huh.
So Nikolai Levashov's notes said they used to be called Tartaria, not Tartaria.
Oh,
But the
yes,
second,
you mentioned this one time like
yeah,
3 episodes ago.
yeah, the second R was added to liken it to a hellish figure from Greek mythology. The
Ah.
second R is a racist pun that came from King Louis XVI, who likened them to the denizens of Tartarus, the Latin name for Hades.
Oh
And
man.
then some of Fomenko's highlights, the guy who died. Oh no, this
Yeah.
is the fuck. Fomenko's the guy who's still alive. He's, I think, the like remember in the first episode when we're like everybody hates us and they think it's this big like
Yeah.
Russian nationalist like conspiracy. I think Fomenko's the guy who did that with his books, The New Chronology,
Right.
and I think there's 7 of them. And I was like, oh, maybe I should read these. These sound interesting, and I'm going to give you some notes of what's in there that makes it so interesting. And there's at some points I interjected and did like a little research to just double check what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
So the glories of Rome, Greece, and Egypt actually took place later than accounts, all during the Middle Ages. The Great Pyramids were built by the Mongol hordes and colonized the Americans, And this is what inspired the Roman Empire. So what he means by this is the Tartarians, which he called Mongol hordes here, were
Yeah.
actually the ones who built the pyramids and they colonized the Americas.
Oh.
When two historical timelines matched up too closely, Fomenko concluded that one must be fake. His overall premise was all written history is merely copying, altering, and repeating a set of historical events. Everything found in written history happened from 800 AD, and nothing really happened before that. So, as you can tell, this guy's totally batshit crazy.
He's a bit on the wacky side. Yeah.
Yeah. He lined up the kings of Judah from 0 to 400 AD with a chart of the German kings from 950 to 1350 AD, and he felt up they lined so closely that he concluded that the kingdom of Judah was actually concocted by historians ripping off the real history of the Middle Age Saxon dynasty in Europe. So basically,
Huh.
what he's saying is that the kings of Judah were actually German kings and they just
Yeah.
changed it all.
Weird.
This system is Fomenko parallelism and is a convenient way to change all history to be a Russian dominated one. Probably why so many people piss their pants about Tartaria. Many historical figures were changed. Jesus became Byzantine Emperor Andronicus I. Komanos mixed with biographies of a pope and a Chinese emperor. Tro and Jerusalem were one city, Constantinople.
Right.
Tartarian hordes were what we all call Mongol hordes.
Right. Okay.
Kublai built the pyramids.
That's Kublai Khan.
Yeah. He was what, the grandson of Genghis Khan?
I think so. I think he was. Yeah. He's a descendant of him. Yeah.
Yeah. His rewriting of biblical history pissed off the Russian Orthodox Church, as you do.
As you do.
Doing
As
history.
one does.
Doing heresy.
Doing heresy. Yeah.
Yeah. The Western historians trot out the myth of an Aryan people. The Holy Roman Empire was appropriated Russian Empire. Genghis Khan was the first great leader of the empire. So that was from Fomenko's books. And then here's some notes from Levashov. He's the guy who died. He was actually he was upset about the mistreatment of the Slav people, set out to write his own history of Tartaria. He termed it the land of the holy race. This land was called the Great Tartary by Europeans, and the people who lived there were called it its greatest country in the world.
It's the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, it's the greatest country in the world.
It's the greatest country in the world.
I feel like everybody says that.
Everybody does say that about their country, yes.
Mm-hmm. It was populated predominantly by Slavs, most of them Russians, but had other ethnicities with equal rights. Huh. According to Levashov, 40,000. Oh, okay, here. Put on your pants because this is
my pants are. I'm not going to do that. I am wearing pajamas.
This is going to make your Ben rise.
Ooh, hello there.
According to Levashov, 40,000 humans came to Earth through stargates with a small group of advanced humanoid creatures.
I love a good stargate.
The Urs, which I guess are these people who came through, had extraordinary abilities and became teachers of regular people and trained a special cast of keepers. And this is funny because as Graham Hancock talks about, and you'll see a lot of ancient symbolism and stuff, there's the tall dudes with beards who are carrying a little pouch. So I think Levashov is referring to these people and calling them the keepers.
The keepers, yeah.
Yeah. And then Tartaria apparently had 2 runic alphabets. Detailed in the Book of Veils, a record of 20,000 of Slavic history completed around the 10th century. And then
did we not do a podcast on one of those languages from Tartaria, or was it a different one where it was like a circle? It had
that was the Bach Saga.
The Bach Saga, right?
Yeah, that was Helsinki. That was another one. Like when I was reading Tartaria, I was like, this could take up your whole life. Just
I couldn't remember. Yeah, I couldn't remember which one that was. I remember we talked about that for a solid couple of episodes too. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this book called the Book of Veils, and it was supposedly a record of 20,000 years of Slavic history. And I was like, well, what does Wikipedia say about this? So this is an excerpt from Wikipedia. The Book of Veils is a literary forgery. purporting to be a
Oh
text of ancient
shit.
Slavic religion and history, supposedly written on wooden planks. It contains what purport to be historical accounts interspersed with religious passages, some of a didactic, moralizing character. The book refers to supposed events, the earliest of which would, if real, be datable to be around the 7th century BC, while the latest would have occurred around the 9th century AD. The book was allegedly discovered in 1919 and lost in 1941. It is widely believed by scholars to be a forgery made in the
Yeah.
1940s and 1950s, or less likely, in the early 19th century. The most decisive evidence for this is the language of the text, which is a mixture of different modern Slavic languages with erroneous and invented linguistic forms of no regular grammar. Moreover, different modern editions of the book have different versions of the text. Regardless, some Slavic neo-paganisms use it as a sacred text.
Huh.
So yeah, Wikipedia is not too big on that book.
No, that's here we are again in another situation where
Yeah.
people are like picking and choosing their religious text that they're going to
Yeah.
follow.
I mean,
It's just,
what else you gonna do if you have a religion?
I guess, I don't know. I just don't understand how that always catches on. Like somebody's like, yeah, we're going to use this one. No, fuck you. You don't use this one. We're going to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, like when we were talking about the Gnostics, and there was that guy in like the year 3 AD from the Roman Empire who was like killing all the Gnostics and stuff.
Yeah, totally. Right. Like, cause
Yeah.
fuck you. If you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not with us,
Yeah.
you're against us.
So the Tsar system in Russia let true Slavic history wither and eventually be forgotten, and letting the cultural sink back into a state of primitive perception. Peter, oh my God, here's a nice fucking
You got a name?
Russian
You got
one.
a name there?
Peter Alexeyevich
Nice. You watch
Romanov.
so much NHL. You should be able to knock
I
these off,
know.
no problem.
Actually, it's funny because Russian's easy because you could just say it slow and then put it fast.
Yeah.
It's like the name of fucking medicine. It's like it's Peter
This-
Romanov, actually, because
yeah.
Alexeyevich is his middle name. So fuck
There
that.
we go. Fuck that.
So he
Yeah.
changed the date from 7208 to 1770, erasing 5,508 years of Slavic history. And now I know what you're saying. You're like, dude, we're in the year 2024 right now. We didn't
Yeah.
even get to 72,000.
No, we
And
did
then I was
not.
like, this sounds fucking dumb. I don't feel like somebody erased 5,000 years. So this is one of the this is another thing that I went and looked up. I was like, this sounds ridiculous and dumb. What was Levashov referring to? And what he was actually referring to is in December 9th, 1699, Peter the Great switched Russia to the Julian calendar,
Oh
which replaced
man.
the Byzantine calendar. To understand this, you need to know that the Byzantine calendar, the calendar was based on the Julian calendar, except that the year started on the 1st of September and the year number was used an Anno Mundi epoch, basically years after the creation, derived from the Septuagint version of the Bible. It placed the date of creation at 5509. Sorry, my notes. Oh, okay. It
Five
it
five on
placed
that.
it placed the date of creation at 5509 years before the incarnation of Jesus.
Huh.
So that's its year one, marking the assumed date of creation. It was September 1st, 5509 BC to August 31st, 5508 BC. This would make the current year AD 2024 7532. Basically, you add the 5508 to today's date.
Plus
So this could be
2024.
why
Right.
so many people detest this whole theory in essence. Levashov's literal translation of words to deliberately misrepresent them. Yeah, so that's why everybody hates this, because this guy Levashov like just sounds like an idiot, because he's like, oh yeah, he just erased 5,000 years of history. It's like, dude,
He didn't
changing.
erase it. He literally just shifted the day one.
Yeah, dude, like he
He didn't
changed the
erase
date.
history. He
Yeah,
changed day one. Yeah.
the guy who fucking decided that the world started on 5509 BC, because they're like, well, that was when religion, or when the world started. Like, those creationists who think
Yeah.
that the world's like 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
That's this
Dude,
date.
there's still people that believe that the world is 2024 years old.
Yeah, those people are dumb.
They're like, yeah.
Yeah. So Peter the Great changed the date, but the years weren't deleted. All the history would still be there. But Levashev would have you believe that 5,508 years were deleted from the advancement of the Slavic culture. So basically, what Levashov is saying, he's like, we're living in the year 2000, but if Peter the Great didn't erase these 5,000 years, we'd be living in the year 7,000
Fuck.
right now.
I love the way they just say erase. Like no one
I know,
erased anything. Yeah, I know.
dude. I was so annoyed because like, and the fucking annoying thing is that this book, the mud flood hypothesis or whatever,
Yeah.
it just like it just said that, and I just kept going. I was like, wait, erase 5,000 years. So I had to like do some Wikipedia research, and then I was like, oh, these fucks. Like, it's annoying that Levashov said that. Then
Yeah.
it's annoying that the fucking book was just like, yeah, whatever, this is what he said, and just left it at that.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Bloody
Tartaria
hell.
is said to have dominated North America by 1652. The land that was Tartaria on maps was quietly included and changed into Russia and China and other places on the map. At some point in the 18th century, At some point in the 18th
Tartar fuck.
century, Tartary Muscovite was the largest country in the world with an area of 3,000 or 3,050,000 square miles. Russia, the largest country now, covers 10,600,000. Yeah, that was like, it's weird because sometimes they call like Tartaria, Tartary, Tataria,
Yeah,
Tartary
it's got different names,
Muscovite.
right?
Yeah, and like there was like a part where it was like broken up into North, South Tartary, Tartaria, and then Tartary Muscovite was one. Yeah.
Yeah, like regions or whatever.
Okay. We're almost done,
Great.
guys. I swear
Oh
to
my
God.
god. Oh my
Okay,
god. Let's do it.
wait. We've got one more page of notes,
Cool. We got to
but
get through it. Let's
that's
go.
like computer notes. Okay, so here's another one of those things that's going to make your Ben rise.
Ooh. Well, like you say that like it already hasn't.
Well, it went
Yeah.
back down to the primordial
Primordial
ooze.
ooze. That would be my balls.
uh,
Let's go.
yeah. So one of the theories about what happened to Tartaria was that Russia was actually the one who got rid of it. Like, remember, I was reading that CIA note saying
Yeah.
that communist Russia tried to get rid of it. So the France invasion of Russia was actually an alliance of France and the Russian capital or the czars against the Tartaria of or Moscow. The St. Petersburg was the capital in Russia, but Napoleon chose to attack Moscow instead when he invaded Russia in 1812. And then he goes like one of the reasons that he says like Russia and France were friends was because Napoleon and Alexander actually had like a 5 year truce. So I Googled this and I went on because the book says that there's medallions with Napoleon and Alexander of both of them on them. And that's the proof that apparently Russia and France teamed up to beat Tartaria. And I was like, what
A
the fuck?
coin. A coin with two
Yeah.
heads on.
So
Oh.
I Googled it.
Yeah.
I actually found that you can actually buy that coin for $10 on eBay right
Yeah, they're
now.
not super expensive.
And
I'm
it
not
was
gonna
it was just like it was a coin to commemorate like military talks
yeah.
on some certain date. But so I went to the collector.com because I Googled like Alexander and Napoleon because even though I now like history,
Yeah.
I just have so many fucking blind spots. I don't know anything. And I know nothing about Napoleon. I know people say he was short and other people say he was average height. And then I know he was like kicking everybody's dick hole in. And then he went into Russia and lost, just like fucking everybody who goes into Russia.
It's just so vast you can't cover it all.
Yeah, exactly. So this is from thecollector.com. On a cold winter's day in December 1805, Emperor Napoleon won his most famous victory at the Battle of Austerlitz, humbling the emperors of Austria and Russia. After another triumph over the Russians at Friedland in June 1807, Napoleon made peace with Tsar Alexander at Tilsit in July. Despite the cordial friendship that developed between the two emperors, the Franco Russian alliance soon began to fracture. This led to Napoleon's ill-fated invasion of Russia in 1812 and Alexander's efforts to build a coalition that would occupy Paris and force Napoleon to abdicate. So is that when Napoleon in 1812, like the book says, that book, whatever, the mud flood hypothesis,
Yeah.
says that Napoleon and Alexander teamed up against Tartary or whatever.
Yeah.
But then Napoleon lost. So wouldn't that just mean Tartaria was still there type of deal?
I guess,
I don't
but
know.
yeah, I'm not really sure. So
It's so cagey.
what would Alexander have gained from teaming up with Napoleon to do
Well,
that?
he could beat the fucking Tartarian Empire, and then the czars could take over and build the
Oh,
Russian
okay.
Empire.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Like that's what they were all saying, was like that was basically communism wanted to take over the country. And I don't know. It's like this is an example of one of those rabbit holes where you're like, I would like to know
You could just keep,
more.
yeah, but there's not really, but
Oh
more
yeah.
goes in every direction.
But I would still be like six rabbit holes back if I was gonna like fucking
Six rabbit holes deep.
if I was gonna like
Yeah.
research every one of these.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can see how that could
Yeah.
get out of hand real quick.
Yeah,
Ow.
man. And then the Tartar language was actually spoken till the mid 1800s.
Oh,
A
yeah.
vocal there was a vocal recital program in Europe in 1849 by Anna Bishop, and she offered the language in Tartarian. And this is a cool thing. I don't know how this would work. It doesn't make sense to me, but the alphabet from some Tartars is legible forward and backwards.
Oh, weird.
So two people can read the same book. Like we could sit across from each other and read the same book simultaneously, but that doesn't make sense to me
Man,
because they're saying like since you can read it either way and
it would
upside
be,
down.
yeah, it would be like able to be managed by anyone could really read it.
Yeah. But it would mean that you would have to read it bottom up and I would
Right.
read it top down.
Yeah. And it would
But I
still be
mean,
the same.
what kind of asshole can't read upside down anyway? It's just you got to go slow.
Man, just even like when I, yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I'm just, it's breaking, my brain's broken. I'm just like, I'm just even thinking about like how, like this whole Tartarian Empire thing, it's not like it, this isn't real. I gotta have to always remember this because I know I've
Yeah.
like been listening to you talk about it for a while, but like it is, it's like pseudo history.
Oh,
It's
it
not,
could be real.
it's not.
It is real,
No, it
Jeff.
could. I know
It
the
is real,
idea is to
Jeff.
suspend disbelief in
Tartaria
this.
is real. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Uh. Anyway, sorry. When you said Muscovite earlier, two things happened. One, because I'm a bit of a geology nerd, Muscovite's an actual like rock.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it comes from an area in Russia near Moscow, which is Muscovite
Oh.
is just a Moscow. It's a person from Moscow. That's an old world
Oh.
term for a person from Moscow is a Muscovite.
Oh.
I
Maybe
knew I'd
that's what
heard
this
that
book was
before.
talking about.
I think that's what it was talking about,
Mm, maybe that
right?
was a oh,
So
maybe that was a me fudging up.
it might have been. I was just thinking about
Yeah.
that because I'm like, I've heard that before. Where is it? And then I realized it's a rock. And I looked at. I'm going to look it up right now. Muscovite. Yeah, it's a rock. It's a mica. It's found in granites. It's a
Nice.
metamorphic rock. So Muscovite's a rock. It's from like that Russian area, and then yeah, like an old
Dope.
timey term for a person from Moscow is a Muscovite.
Oh, cool.
I think it might be racist.
Probably everything's racist. Okay.
Goddamn Muscovites are knocking down my walls, smoking in my front yard.
Yeah. We're at the very end of my notes.
Oh boy.
Couple notes on Genghis Khan.
And we're
Because
like
as
at
they
pretty
were
close to
saying,
an hour here.
yeah, he was like, I think we're at an hour exactly right now. So they were saying he was the first emperor of the Mongolian Emperor or
Right.
of Tartaria or
Empire.
whatever.
Oh, okay.
So, and this book said Genghis Khan was originally a Scythian who changed the name of his tribe and nation to Tartaria, thus becoming the first emperor of Tartaria. This would have been 1206 when he was 44. So I looked up what a Scythian was because I'd never heard of that. And that
There
was
can only be two, right? This is the dark side of the force.
It's
There's
actually
always a
like
master and apprentice.
it's some tribes from like the Iraq region So
Okay.
they're saying that these, like, it was nomadic tribes. It was basically like nomadic horseback tribes, just like the Mongol, like Genghis Khan and his Mongol
Oh, it's
horde
spelled like
was.
scythes. Okay.
Yeah,
That's weird. So I just a second as soon as you said Scythian, I went to like, oh god, it's Darth Maul.
yeah. Is it
And definitely
Scythian? Because the
yeah,
book said Scythian.
yeah, Scythian sounds right.
Okay.
This is
Uh
this is extremists all over again.
yeah. Yeah. So late,
Extremists? No,
yeah.
extremists.
And it's
Sorry,
funny
go ahead.
because Genghis Khan is going through like
Bob Genghis
somewhat of a
Khan.
redemption arc. Like, I think one of the reasons that these people would say that Genghis Khan was just seen as like a ruthless, merciless
Mm,
warlord cutting his way and just being like basically like inhumane and stuff. But some of the stuff that like you find out is he outlawed the kidnapping of women, which could stem from his wife being kidnapped when he
right.
was in his mid 20s. He banned the enslavement of any Mongols because one of the things was before Genghis Khan, Mongolians were all just like separate little tribes of like hundreds of people or whatever. So
Yeah.
he, and when people like tribal warfare, they used to take each other as slaves and stuff. And so he banned that no Mongolian tribe could take other Mongolian tribes as slaves. Doesn't say anything about people who weren't Mongolian, but we'll
Right.
just leave it at
But
that.
we're gonna leave it in
Yeah.
Mongolians. Yeah. What
And
about this white guy? Ah, fuck
yeah.
him. He's a slave. Yeah.
And if you stole any livestock, you got killed. Like
Yeah.
he penalized the theft of livestock with death, which makes sense because in herder cultures, like if your livestock's gone, then you basically your whole family dies,
Right.
starves to death. He adopted a writing system. I don't know if that was Tartarian or if he just like made up some other writing system. And this is interesting because some of the people, like he was the one that they say burnt down the Library of Alexandria, isn't it?
Right. I
And
think
a
so.
lot of
That
and
seems
people said like the one of the beliefs was that he was just he hated smart people so much. And he's like, me Genghis Khan, me dumb, me hate smart. And then he like burned down libraries and stuff. So like they're saying that he had his own writing system. And I mentioned it before, but another conspiracy theory about the burning of the Library of Alexandria was that the Catholic Church took all the books out before they burned it.
yeah. I've heard that one before too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Genghis Khan actually conducted a regular census of his people, which I didn't even know that was such a thing back then.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
So you're saying that he wasn't as bad as Western historical records might have stated.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan did a few good things for the world. So my only concern with this is like, when did Genghis Khan live? What was his like time frame?
1206, he was 44.
Okay,
So he was born 11, no, 13, yeah, 11.
so in a few hundred years from now, people would be like, "Well, Hitler actually established
Yeah.
art schools or something, right?" And you're like,
Yeah.
he actually did a few things that were quite good. No, I'm
Oh
not.
my God, that's,
It's a
yeah.
slippery slope and a very dangerous thing to
Yeah.
start off with. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, history is written by the victor, right? And like,
Yeah.
who the fuck knows what actually happened in 1206, right? They're like, what are the records that we really know about
Mm-hmm.
Genghis Khan, right? And who
Yeah,
wrote those?
exactly. Like, where's the records of Tartaria? Quit hiding
Where's the
from it.
records of
Listen to
Tartaria?
Jeff.
This is how this.
He wants our
Shit.
real
I
history.
just walked in. I walked into why conspiracy theories exist. I
Oh
walked right
yeah.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why we have a podcast.
So he also offered freedom of religion, which is fucking crazy for back then.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
freedom of religion now is testy because everybody hates
you
everyone
said you
else's
said
religion.
testes.
But in 1206, freedom of religion wasn't a thing because basically your nation state was built by whatever religion you believed in.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And he also offered diplomatic immunity to foreign ambassadors.
Well, we still do that today.
Yeah. And then the last note is Russian czars enabled Russia to remove these tribes by deleting history.
And there we go.
And that's what happened to Tartaria. The Russian czars didn't want. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's saying that the Russian czars deleted Tartaria, and I guess we could just jump to conclusions on why they would do that. And my guess is if you had like the rich who needed a feudal system to stay rich, They didn't want people to realize that there was this like Tartarian empire where everybody got to just like fucking touch tips and have a regular sense of and be
Kiss
whatever
lower
religion they
backs.
wanted. Yeah,
Yeah.
kiss each other's lower
Just
backs.
smooch lower backs, the
Yeah,
usual. Just good old
whatever.
guy, good old non-homoerotic Templar
I mean,
stuff.
yeah. You want to go fight for Jesus, you got to kiss each other's
Got to kiss
backs.
each other's
I don't
backs.
know what
That's how
you
it
guys are
goes. Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. I mean, look. Don't steal any livestock because the people will die, but you can kiss me on the lower back if you want. I think that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of my notes on Tartaria.
We did it.
Tartaria is put to bed.
Too bad.
Don't at me because I know there's so much more about Tartaria. I know there's so much I missed. There's so much I glanced over, but I'm only one man. I got a
Well,
baby. I got a girl whose back gets blown out. Not the fun
you
way
know,
either.
you know what you got to do? You got to kiss that lower back a little bit.
Oh, that's true. Maybe
You
I
got to
got to
give it
give her
some
some
smooches.
Tartarian love magic.
It's called Tartarian
Oh,
chiropractor.
yeah, not Tartarian, a fucking Templar.
Templar chiropractor.
Oh, dude. This is when I AI, like in 2 years, I will have the most fun with AI because I will be like, AI, please write me a computer or make me a computer animated dark future fantasy novel with Templar Tartarians going to whatever Jeff said the fucking devil's butthole was in
Yeah.
Prague, going there to fight the devil's butthole.
Oh,
And then I'll just get like 5 movies of this and I'll watch them and I'm like, this is amazing.
this
Why
is the
didn't people
best.
read this first?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to get going. My wife needs to talk to me.
Okay.
She's away. She's away on business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So good night, Tartaria.
good
Good
night,
night, Jeff.
Tartaria.
Good
Good
night,
night.
Moon. You're
Good
all
night.
going to bed.
You're all going to bed. Oh my god. Yeah, I just about
Yeah.
ripped into a Macho Man impersonation for no
I
good reason.
hope I answered all your Tartarian questions, Jeff.
Uh I think I have some unanswered Tartarian questions, but it's okay. I'll survive.
Yeah.
I'll survive. Oh yeah. Tartaria. You see,
Nice.
it's this place. It's maybe Russia. It's maybe a little bit of Muscovites. Yeah. You
Fuck,
see
I
what I'm
could listen
saying?
to this for 3 episodes. Easy.
I got to get it going better. I need more of a script in front of me.
Yeah.
I could do it. It would be pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
You're talking
Dude.
about them. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you for.